Ladies and gentlemen, the first hour after you open your eyes in the morning is not just another slice of time on the clock. It's the battlefield where the trajectory of your entire day is decided. You might think that sounds overly dramatic, but in reality, the human mind is never more malleable, never more open to influence than in those first waking moments. Your brain, still transitioning from the dream state, is in what neuroscientists call the theta state, a highly suggestible mental mode. That means the first things you expose yourself to in the morning have an outsized impact on your mood, your focus, and even your sense of self for the rest of the day. And here's the problem: most people surrender this crucial moment without even realizing it. They wake up, grab their phone, scroll through a barrage of headlines, ads, notifications, and random noise. Without awareness, they let other people's agendas set the tone for their lives. They allow their emotional state to be hijacked before they've even taken their first conscious breath. And the irony is, they call this starting the day. But that's not starting. That's surrender. That's giving the steering wheel of your life to whoever shouts the loudest into your digital feed. If you want to reclaim your mornings, you have to reclaim that first hour. This isn't about rigid rules or pretending life will go perfectly if you wake up early. It's about understanding the profound psychological principle that the start of anything often dictates its quality. You know this intuitively. If the first notes of a song are out of tune, it's harder to enjoy the rest of it. If the opening chapter of a book is weak, you're less likely to finish it. Your day works the same way. The first hour is the overture. It sets the emotional and mental tone for everything that follows. What you do in that first hour is essentially you casting a vote for the kind of day you're going to have. You're telling your subconscious, this is who I am, and this is how I operate. If you begin in chaos, you prime yourself for more chaos. If you begin with structure, you prime yourself for more order. And order, especially in the midst of a chaotic world, is a form of psychological armor. That's why the morning is not the time for reaction, it's the time for deliberate action. You must choose what enters your mind and where your focus goes before the noise of the world arrives. Even something as simple as making your bed or sitting quietly with a cup of coffee and thought is not trivial. It's a symbolic act. It's you telling your mind, I am in control. I set the tone. I decide. Now there's a deeper layer to this. The reason the morning matters so much isn't just because of mental states or productivity hacks. It's because of identity. Every choice you make in that first hour is a micro-expression of the person you believe yourself to be. When you get up, ignore distractions, move your body, and start the day with intention, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who takes life seriously. And that identity doesn't just affect your mornings. It seeps into your relationships, your work, and your ability to handle setbacks. You literally become the person you keep proving yourself to be day after day. But here's the trap: you won't feel the consequences immediately. If you waste the first hour, you might still have a productive day on paper. But over time, those mornings compound. You become more reactive, more distracted, and more at the mercy of circumstance. In the same way, consistently intentional mornings compound into a quiet but unshakable self-respect. And self-respect is one of the most powerful assets a person can carry. So, ask yourself, who is deciding the tone of your day, you or the chaos that's waiting outside your door? If you want to win the battles of the afternoon and evening, you have to win the battle of the morning first. That's the battlefield. That's the place where your discipline, your mindset, and your sense of control are forged. And remember this, your morning is not just about preparing for the day, it's about preparing for the person you are becoming. Every sunrise gives you a new chance to cast your vote. So when tomorrow comes, don't just wake up, rise up, set the tone, claim the wheel, win the first hour, and you'll find the rest of the day often takes care of itself. Discipline before comfort. It sounds simple, but it's one of those deceptively simple truths that, if taken seriously, can transform the entire trajectory of a life. Most people don't realize it, but your morning habits are essentially a negotiation between two versions of yourself. The short-sighted self that craves ease, and the long-sighted self that hungers for meaning and mastery. Every single morning, that negotiation begins the moment you wake up. The temptation is always there, to stay under the blankets for 5 more minutes, to avoid that cold shower, to skip the workout, to let the difficult task wait until later. And in the moment, each of those decisions feels harmless. But here's the reality: every time you choose comfort over discipline in those early hours, you're not just postponing a task. You're weakening your own self-respect. You're proving to yourself, in small but significant ways that your immediate desires outrank your long-term goals. That's a dangerous hierarchy because comfort is endless. There will always be another soft pillow, another snooze button, another reason to delay. When you reverse that order, when you choose discipline before comfort, you send a profoundly different message to your subconscious. You say, I'm capable of doing hard things. I can prioritize what matters over what's easy. And that builds a sense of personal authority that cannot be faked. The more you act on discipline, the more you see yourself as the kind of person who follows through, and the more your mind begins to expect you to win the small battles. That expectation, repeated enough, becomes identity, and identity drives behavior far more powerfully than willpower alone. The morning is the perfect training ground for this because it's when your will is tested in its purest form. You're not yet weighed down by the chaos of the day, you don't have dozens of urgent fires to put out, and you haven't been drained by decision fatigue. If you can't summon discipline in this moment, in this quiet, sacred space, you're going to have an even harder time doing it when the world starts making demands of you. It's like training for war before the battle begins. You prepare in the morning so you can stand unshaken later. The benefits of this discipline first approach ripple outward. Physically, it sharpens you. Mentally, it grounds you. Spiritually, it strengthens the belief that you are capable of steering your life with intention. And perhaps most importantly, it inoculates you against the mindset that comfort is the ultimate goal of existence. Because here's the truth, comfort doesn't make you happy, it makes you numb. It dulls your edge, weakens your resilience, and erodes the courage you'll need when life inevitably throws you into the fire. This is why starting your morning with your hardest task, the thing you least want to do but most need to do, is such a powerful psychological weapon. It's not about punishing yourself, it's about teaching yourself that discomfort is not the enemy. In fact, discomfort is the doorway. Walk through it enough times, and you'll discover that your capacity for action expands. The task that once felt overwhelming becomes routine, and you're left stronger than you were yesterday. That's the compounding effect of discipline. It grows quietly, invisibly at first, until one day people look at you and wonder how you became so resilient, so capable, so unshakable. But here's the paradox: the comfort you delayed in the morning will return to you later, magnified. It will come not as a fleeting pleasure, but as a deep satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing you earned it. You'll rest better because you've acted with integrity. You'll enjoy your leisure because it's not laced with guilt or unfinished obligations. Discipline before comfort creates not just a productive day, but a peaceful mind. So tomorrow, when you wake up and the familiar negotiation begins, remember that you are casting a vote for the person you will be, not just for the day you will have. Choose discipline before comfort, and you'll find that life, far from being a series of exhausting struggles, becomes a series of challenges you're strong enough to meet. Because in the end, comfort is a byproduct of discipline, not a replacement for it. Seek comfort first, and you'll live in quiet frustration. Seek discipline first, and comfort will follow, not as a master but as a reward. Every morning, before you even speak a word to another human being, you're already telling yourself a story. You might not realize it, because the language isn't verbal, it's behavioral. The way you wake up, the choices you make, the tone you set in those first minutes of the day, these are all sentences in an ongoing narrative about who you are. And here's the critical thing: your mind believes the story you repeatedly tell it. If you start your day by hitting snooze 3 times, scrolling aimlessly through other people's lives, or avoiding the work you know needs to be done, your actions are writing a chapter that says, I am someone who avoids, who reacts, who drifts. That story seeps into your identity. And identity is not some abstract thing, it's the psychological operating system that governs how you respond to every challenge and opportunity. The story you tell in the morning echoes through the rest of the day, and if repeated enough, it echoes through the rest of your life. This is why the concept of a morning routine isn't just about productivity or efficiency, it's about authorship. You are the writer of your own identity, and the morning is when you pick up the pen. The question is, are you writing with intention, or are you letting the script be written for you by your moods, your impulses, and the noise around you? The truth is, your identity is shaped far more by consistent small acts than by occasional grand gestures. People tend to believe that who they are is decided by big moments, landing a job, winning an award, starting a family, but those moments are often just the consequences of the daily patterns that came before them. Your morning habits are among the most influential of those patterns because they set your self-perception in motion every single day. Think about it. When you wake up and immediately tackle something meaningful, you're telling yourself, I am disciplined, I am capable, I am someone who takes charge. And the mind responds to this like a compass finding north. You carry that sense of self into every interaction, every problem, every decision. On the other hand, if you start the day in distraction or avoidance, the compass still points. But now it points toward apathy, toward resignation, toward the belief that you are at the mercy of circumstances. It's also worth noting that the identity you reinforce in the morning isn't just about self-image, it's about self-trust. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in small ways, you prove to yourself that your word matters. This creates an internal stability that is extremely hard to shake. It's why some people can walk into chaos and remain calm. They've built such a strong internal trust through consistent action that they know they can rely on themselves no matter what happens. But the opposite is just as true. If you make promises to yourself in the morning, to get up on time, to exercise, to read something meaningful, and then break them, you chip away at that trust. You start to doubt your own resolve, and self-doubt is corrosive. It erodes not just your ambitions, but your willingness to even attempt them. That's why the morning is such a powerful arena for personal transformation. It's an unbroken field of potential where you can deliberately align your actions with the identity you want to inhabit. If you want to be a disciplined person, act disciplined before the world forces your hand. If you want to be a leader, lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. If you want to be strong, start proving it before the first challenge of the day arrives. And here's the profound part. This identity-shaping process doesn't require perfection. You don't have to execute a flawless morning every day. What matters is the direction of the story. If most mornings you are reinforcing the identity you aspire to, your life will move toward that version of you. It's like steering a ship. A single course correction in the morning can change where you land entirely. So when you open your eyes tomorrow, remember you are not just waking up to a day, you are waking up to yourself. The actions you take are sentences, the habits you keep are paragraphs, and the identity you live is the book you're writing. Make it a story worth telling, and make sure it's one you'd be proud to read again tomorrow. In the quiet of the morning, before the full noise of the world comes crashing in, your mind is like a fortress with its gates standing open. What you allow to pass through those gates in those first minutes will influence everything that happens afterward. This is not poetic exaggeration, it's a psychological reality. The first inputs your brain receives set a pattern, not only for how you think, but for how you feel and respond to the world around you. If the first thing you take in is a flood of negativity, headlines designed to provoke fear, social media posts engineered to spark comparison, emails demanding urgent attention, you are planting seeds of reactivity before you've even had the chance to choose your mindset. The human brain is exquisitely sensitive to priming. The emotional tone established early in the day lingers, subtly shaping your thoughts, your focus, and even the meaning you assign to events. That's why a single unpleasant interaction in the morning can color your perception of an entire day, and why a moment of clarity or inspiration can do the opposite. The problem is that most people treat their mornings as open territory for whatever happens to arrive. They assume they'll handle whatever comes their way without realizing that mental energy is not infinite. By the time they've reacted to 10 different pieces of bad news or scrolled past 100 curated lives more glamorous than their own, they've already burned through much of the resilience they'll need later. They've let the fortress fall before the first real attack has even begun. Guarding your mind in the morning means taking ownership of that gate. It's about deciding, consciously and deliberately, what you allow in while your mental soil is still fresh and fertile. If you want clarity, plant seeds of clarity, a quiet reflection, a meaningful passage from a book, a written intention for the day. If you want strength, plant seeds of strength, movement, breath, something that challenges you physically or mentally before the demands of the outside world pull you away. And if you want gratitude, plant seeds of gratitude, not vague sentiment, but specific recognition of the things in your life worth protecting and building upon. It's important to recognize that guarding your mind is not about avoiding reality or pretending the world isn't chaotic. You will face difficulty, criticism, and uncertainty no matter how perfect your morning is. The point is to enter that chaos already fortified, to be the kind of person who can engage with difficulty from a position of centeredness, rather than scrambling to regain it after you've lost your footing. When your first inputs are intentional, you're not easily swayed by the noise. You're not constantly checking to see how you should feel based on what's trending. You start from a place of stability, and that stability gives you the power to choose your responses instead of being dragged along by them. And yes, this requires discipline. The easy path is to wake up and let the world rush in. The harder path, but the one that changes lives, is to be vigilant about what crosses that threshold. It's the same principle as guarding the physical space you live in. You wouldn't invite a thief into your home out of habit or laziness, so why would you invite mental thieves into your head before you've even had breakfast? If you consistently guard your morning mind, you will notice a profound shift. You'll find yourself less rattled by small irritations, less desperate for constant stimulation, less dependent on others to set your emotional tone. You'll become more intentional, more self-directed, and more resistant to the currents of distraction that pull so many people off course. In a very real sense, you'll start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. So tomorrow, when you wake up, imagine yourself standing at the gate of that fortress. Ask yourself what you want inside with you for the battles ahead. Choose carefully, because whatever enters in those first moments has the power to either fortify you or weaken you. And remember, once the gate is breached, it's far harder to rebuild the walls in the middle of the fight. Guard your mind at dawn, and you guard the whole day. Guard it every day, and you guard the whole life.